Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Verity. Welcome to the What the Friday podcast.
In this episode, Gabby is joined by GP Dr. Joy to explore the connection between our Headspace and the Bedspace.
Yes, the inextricable link between mental health and sexual health.
Over to you, Gabby.
Welcome back to What the Friday, the podcast where we say the things everyone's thinking, but no one's brave enough to say out loud. I'm Gabby, your host, and today's episode is Headspace versus Bedspace. Yeah, we're talking about how mental health affects our sexual health. I think I speak for most of us when I say I never got the talk. The one that says, hey, your brain and beds are also actually in a relationship. They're more linked than we think. From stress killing the mood to trauma leaving emotional scars, it's deep. Today we're joined by an expert guest, Dr. Joy. Dr. Joy will help us dig deeper into this today. So to start us off, Dr. Joy, can you tell us how our mental health and sexual health are connected?
I would say that they are very closely connected. I think one feeds into the other and vice versa. So they are inextricably linked.
Okay, and what are some ways that our mental health can influence our sexual well-being?
Well, I made a list for this. So I feel that mental health, especially anxiety, might feed, especially in the sexual health area, from low self-esteem, and that could be linked to your body image or worries about performance. And there are some obvious things like pregnancy and infection that might make you quite afraid of engaging in sexual relations. There's also the thought of reputation and whether you are going to be viewed by your peers, other people your age, as being a certain way if you're engaging in sex. And if you're in part of an unhealthy relationship, that's going to give you anxiety about starting sexual relations.
Okay, so and talking about our reputations and perceptions, I know that in some cultures and even in general society, it does seem like talking about our sexual health is frowned upon and talking about sex can be considered some type of taboo. Do you think it's important to have these conversations about sex and relationships and how mental health affects all this, and why do you think it's important?
I think it's really important, and I think that's the way to get past a taboo, is if everybody's talking about it, then it's no longer a taboo. I think the trouble is that when it's not talked about, things that I've just described that cause problems with sexual relationships are just not tackled, and therefore they can become something really big. And if you have a healthy sex life, it can make a massive difference in all other parts of your life. So it's something to be really treasured, is a healthy sex life.
Right, and while we're still on our reputation and perception, how can our thoughts or emotions affect how we experience sex as a whole?
So I think there is an element of what our previous experiences have been. So if we've had good previous experiences, we might want to recreate those, and that can be unrealistic. If our previous experiences have been bad, if there's been pain or discomfort, we try and avoid recreating those. And again, that can be bad because it stops you from moving forward. I think there are some unrealistic expectations as well. I'll bring into the mix here things like pornography. If you're watching pornography, it's a very different expectation of what a sexual relationship is like compared to if you've really just explored your sexuality with someone where you're in a healthy relationship.
Right, and I know that there's conditions like vaginismus, which can be directly caused by mental ill health. Are there any other conditions like this, and what are some early warning signs of mental ill health affecting our sexual health that we can notice in ourselves?
So vaginismus is a condition in women where essentially the channel, known as the vagina, can go into spasm, even though there is plenty of arousal and there's plenty of desire for sex. And it can be really disabling. It can stop you having intercourse if you are suffering with that condition. It's difficult to treat as well. It is something that we are aware of in general practice, and I would certainly say to see your GP or to go to a sexual health clinic if you're aware of this. Other conditions where mental health can affect your sexual health, I think would be mainly in men. So, for example, difficulty getting or retaining an erection and premature ejaculation. And of course, the majority of those erection problems are psychological causes. So it's very unusual to have problems getting or retaining an erection where it's a physical cause or it's related to a disease or infection. It's usually related to how you feel about your ability to perform in that environment. Early warning signs of mental ill health affecting our sexual health would be that level of anxiety, whether you are not able to feel aroused, whether you've lost your libido, which is your desire for sex, and also if you're unable to get either of those in a situation where you're trying to pleasure yourself, would indicate that that's going to be a problem with somebody else as well.
Right, and I do understand that maybe dealing with all of these things can be a bit stressful. What role does stress play in how we feel about or engage in sex?
I would say that stress is going to make your levels of anxiety a fair bit higher. And so for all of those things, if you've got a little bit of anxiety about something, the stress is going to magnify that.
Yeah. I understand that some of these things aren't really discussed on platforms people my age actually engage with. A large number of young people are experiencing certain things that they may not be aware are signs of mental ill health affecting their sexual health. Are there any common sexual issues that people might not realize are linked to mental health that you might see in general practice?
Yes, I think the most common things would be not engaging in sexual relations at all or avoiding any situation where that might come up, not talking about it, but also things like promiscuity. So promiscuity or seeking sexual gratification with multiple different partners and not actually forming proper relationships with any of them can be a sign that you're avoiding any sort of deeper connection with people, and obviously that is a worrying thing in terms of mental health.
Yeah. What are some physical changes that can happen in our bodies when mental health isn't great, and how might these affect sex?
So I'm thinking of particularly if you're very low in mood and you're not being very good at looking after yourself, you might be not washing, you might be gaining weight or losing weight, and then you would have difficulty with your body image and your self-esteem. And also if you're hiding away from the world because of your low mood or your anxiety, that you would then lose exercise tolerance. And I think all of those things could have an impact on your ability to enjoy being in a sexual relationship.
And on the flip side of this conversation, in what ways can struggling with sexual health affect someone's mental well-being?
So if you're having difficulty in your sexual relationship, and especially if your partner is less understanding, you may start to think that there's something really wrong with you. And that may encourage you to think that there are other things that are wrong with you. So it is really important to look at where that has started and actually look at the root cause. What is it that has started me thinking that there is something wrong? And where has that led to me feeling that I'm somehow not good enough, or that I'm not as good as the next person.
Okay, and I know sometimes when you're struggling with either sexual health or mental health, we might feel like we don't fit in. What would you say to someone who doesn't feel normal because of how their mental health is affecting their sex life?
First of all, I'd be really happy if somebody came and spoke to me about that, because that's the first thing, is to actually talk about it. Yeah. And it's a really uncomfortable subject to talk about. So I'd just welcome the opportunity for someone to be able to talk about it and to actually explore what it is that makes them feel less normal, and what it is about their mental health or their sex life that could be changed and could be improved.
And lastly, what support is out there for young people struggling with both mental health and sexual health?
I mean, obviously I'm going to go and say, see your GP, because we are generalists and we'd be happy to have those conversations. We really try our best to be non-judgmental and to give a welcoming space where you can come and talk and you will be listened to. And then if there are specific problems, then a GP can refer you on depending on what the problem is. You can also go directly to sexual health clinics without a referral from your GP and you can also seek help from mental health services that don't need a referral.
Right. I think this conversation was so needed. A huge thanks to Dr. Joy for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Joy.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabby.
And to everyone listening, if something in this episode hits different, take a second to breathe. Maybe even talk to someone. Your headspace and your bedspace deserve peace. See you next time.
Wow, Gabby should have her own late night radio show. Her voice is so chilled.
Yes, thanks Gabby and Dr. Joy for such a great interview. I'm sure we've all learnt lots.
You can find lots of interesting podcasts on a variety of subjects by exploring the useful podcast section on the Destination web app. Search destination.org.uk.
You can also find them on Apple, Spotify or YouTube.
If you would like to know more information about the subjects discussed, please check the podcast description.
We'd like to thank Locala and Kirklees College for their support, Jimmy for editing, and Youth Social for producing.
Until next time,
Bye.
bye.